I mean, this is just a really, really sad day. I can't believe it. I can't believe it, Lockie.
What's up? What's wrong?
This is your last episode. You're leaving me.
I know. It was bound to happen eventually. You're always going to go on to bigger and brighter things. I hear you've already replaced me. You've already lined up who you're gonna get to take over my role. I see how it is.
All I can say is I come into the organization and a few months later you're leaving. So I don't know what that says about me. Well, we better make this a good one then. Let's get on with the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Timed Out. Yes, it is a momentous occasion. The great Lachlan McCurdy is moving on to different pastures. So it's going to be very, very sad for us, the sporting news, to lose Lockie. Yeah, but what can I say, Lock? You've been amazing to work with, and I'm going to miss you.
Oh, thank you, Mel. That means a lot. Obviously, two massive retirement, well, not quite retirement, but announcements in the last 24 hours. First Dale Steyn, and then on an equal level, I'd like to think myself. So, yeah.
I often think of you as the Dale Steyn of sports reporting.
Funny, that's the first time I've had that comparison, but I'm not going to shy away from it.
Big hello to as well anyone who's joining us today. If you want to say a hi, drop us a comment or a question in there. Hello to Spartan Kratos, who's straight in there, very happy. And Rati's crying. Rati's crying. She's very, very sad that you're leaving, unless maybe she's just got hay fever. Also a possibility.
I mean, it's the first day of spring here in Australia, so that's I'm sure, yeah, that could be a lot of people as well.
But yeah, it's a sad thing, but you know, you're still going to be around in the world of cricket. We're going to see a lot of you. So, and I'll probably still annoy you by texting you at odd hours saying, "What about this?"
When we find streams, because who knows, maybe the Ashes won't be streamed this year. I mean, what's going to happen? Who knows?
Who knows indeed. Hello, Cricket with AV, who says, always love to hear you guys. Well, we love hearing from you, Cricket with AV. So thank you very, very much for joining us. What a week, as there is all sorts of stuff going on this week. So
certainly is.
Yeah, shall we get stuck into it? First topic of the day is the other big retirement news, and that is Dale Steyn. Hail Steyn, is he the greatest of a generation? Well, this is a topic that I'm sure, you know, it's just so subjective. Everyone is going to have their own ideas. People talk about different conditions, longevity, all sorts of things. But what can't be denied is, I think, particularly that period between about 2007 and around 2011 in particular, there was no one. He was so far ahead of everyone else. When you look at any of the figures, when you look at number of wickets taken, when you look at average, when you look at strike rate, he's so far ahead of absolutely anyone else in that period, whether you're talking Mitchell Johnson, whether you're talking James Anderson, or all the other bowlers who've been around in that period. He was head and shoulders, not just head and shoulders. He was like, I don't know, he was way up in the air. Everyone else was on the ground, but Dale Steyn was absolutely flying, levitating above everyone else. The longevity of his career, the way it's changed, he's been such a force for South Africa, and it was just the true pace bowler. He was so quick, but he adapted with the game. I read a really great interview with him with Nagraj Golapudi on Cricinfo from a few years back, and how he changed it. It was pace, but it was also the control. They were the two things for him. And yeah, he's a big loss to the game. I feel incredibly privileged just to have been around at a time where we could see one of the all-time greats of fast bowling. And depending on your position, maybe the best. Who knows?
Ooh. That is a very big call. To start my 90 seconds, I want to bring up there's a photo we've got here of Dale Steyn, which I think really encapsulates the man. Just someone who celebrated every wicket as if he got the best batsman out in the world, and just put his passion and his heart on the line every time he played for South Africa. And obviously he played for a lot of other franchises in T20 cricket and the like, but when he pulled on that South African Test jumper, he just turned into a completely different bowler. He was just phenomenal. And as someone who, obviously, I grew up and was introduced into cricket, I guess, in the early 2000s, and had your Lees, your Gillespies, your McGraths, and those were the people I looked up to then. But when I really started to appreciate some of the finer points of cricket as I was growing up was that sort of late 2000s, early 2010s. And that's when this guy was at his absolute peak. And you just look at some of the performances. I mean, to have the list of highlights that he does is absolutely incredible. And just he could perform anywhere around the world, which is absolutely phenomenal as well. The one I wanted to single out that sticks in my mind was the MCG Test in 2008, where I think he took 2 fifers. He took a fifer in each innings, and then he hit, I think, 70-odd as well with the bat. But obviously with the ball as well, he was a constant thorn in Australia's side. He every time he hit the crease, he hit it hard as if it was his first ball of the innings. And I think just what made him so great was that he was such a fierce yet just a fantastic competitor, that there was no lines ever crossed. He was always wanting to do the best for his country, but he just seemed like someone that everyone in world cricket could absolutely love as well.
And he got a lot of those. He got a lot of those. I actually just think too, I'm going to miss his wild eyes and the veins pulsating in his neck almost as much as I'm going to miss his bowling, because that was fantastic. Diraj Ragtar says hello and says he's the best of the 20th century so far, and a fired up Steyn is miles ahead of everyone. Yeah, he certainly is going to be missed. I absolutely love watching him. Particularly terrorising Australian batters has always been fun to watch, probably not fun to face. Okay, our next timed out topic of the day is Queensland bags the Australia v India series. So we've been wondering. It's been pushed back. It was supposed to start on the 17th, now starting on the 21st. All of the games to be played in Queensland at the Metricon Stadium on the Gold Coast and at the Great Barrier Reef Stadium in Mackay. For those overseas, that is up north, not far from the Great Barrier Reef. The most disappointing thing is, of course, I think the loss of the WACA as a test venue, because we've spoken so much about that. And I have really been looking forward to that, particularly with some of those young pace bowlers that Australia has, and then also seeing how whether some of the Indian batters really enjoyed facing that on a quick pitch. So it's a bit of an unknown, really. I think the pitch at Metricon Stadium, which is where it's going to be held. Beth Mooney, asking her about that when she spoke to the media, she said she believes, she's been talking to the groundies, as she calls them there, the staff who reckon it's going to play really well. It's a fresh drop-in pitch, so it won't have been played on at all, which is a really good thing, because too often women have to play on used pitches, especially in test matches. Quick outfield, which is also good. So hopefully we get a really decent pitch there, because that is always going to be just one of the key things to ensuring that we have a good test, and it allows them to display their skills to the best of their ability. So at least we have some certainty around it. And now we can actually start to look forward to the games themselves, rather than if they're going to take place, when they're going to take place.
Good timing, very good timing. I mean, obviously we've got a lot of players currently in quarantine, so hopefully maybe we've got some of them watching. I'd like to think we do. I think we're at the top of the game when it comes to reporting on women's cricket, so I'd like to think so. But yeah, a lot of the players, obviously the New South Wales and Victorian-based Australian players, they're up in quarantine now in Queensland, in Brisbane, I believe, getting ready for this series. The Indian players flew out a few days ago, so they're all in the country as well. And it is going to be a fascinating series. I mean, it kind of, I wouldn't say evens the playing field, but obviously a lot of Australia's team are from New South Wales and Victoria. And that's going to, if they're not able to train as much leading into the series, that was going to be a real advantage for the Australian side, because India were going to have these 14-day quarantines. They managed to negotiate some warm-up, at least one warm-up game before the tour, because they went, look, we didn't have one in the England series and we need one. So that was always going to be a bit of advantage for Australia, but it kind of levels it out a little bit now. So it'll be interesting to see what impact that has. I mean, with Metricon Stadium, as you're kind of mentioning, it was set to be, the WBBL this year is set to be the first time that stadium is used for the Women's Big Bash League. We've seen it a couple of times in the men's BBL, and from what we've seen, it's usually a pretty batting-friendly pitch. Obviously, it's a fresh drop-in, so who really knows how much we could draw from that. But I mean, one of my favorite games from last year's BBL was the Melbourne Stars Sydney Sixers midnight special, where I think Dan Christian and then Steve O'Keefe got a late cut off the last ball to win it. So definitely going to be some good cricket there, and it's fantastic to see a new sort of part of Australia getting some women's cricket, and hopefully the fans flock to it.
I think you got an extra 10 seconds there.
I'm being given
your
presents.
last show.
Yeah.
Miku, our producer, is giving you like an extra few seconds there. I do like the fact that even when we're talking about the women's game, you managed to slip in a reference to Dan Christian there. So.
He's always watching me.
There he is, Dan the man. I knew you'd be able to slip it in there. Okay, so next topic up for our show today is who can predict the England v India result. I'm going to let you go first on this. Go on.
Throw me in the deep end. Yeah. I mean, if I want to put some time in the bank, no one, and that's my 90 seconds done. Because really, in the last two tests, we've seen almost two completely different sides play two completely different styles of cricket, because I don't think anyone really could have seen that performance coming from India. I thought England's pace attack bowled well, but obviously Jimmy Anderson is world class, but he's almost not as that world class as India getting bowled out for 70 odd or whatever it was in the end. I mean, I think they'll be so disappointed with that performance. And what we saw from their third innings is that they have that capability to dig in a little bit more and bat time and have that patience. And they just kind of threw that away in the first innings. And look, you can maybe say that they got the toss a bit wrong, but at the end of the day, if you send into bat, or if you choose to bat in those conditions, you just got to be patient. And I think we'll see a very different India in terms of their mindset going into this fourth test match. As for England, obviously Joe Root has been the standout. Oh, look at that timing. Yeah, Joe Root. He has been batting so well. As you said in your brilliant chat with Michael Holding, that is also available on Sporting News' social channels, Joe Root's purple patch, it's one of the best patches of form that he's had in his career to date. So it'll be very fascinating to see what happens there. Obviously, there's a few different changes that they'll have to make. No Joss Butler, with the thought being, I guess, Johnny Bairstow is probably going to take the gloves for a bit now. I was really impressed with Dawid Malan, so I hope he continues to get his place. And yeah, a lot to come in this series, in tied 1-1.
There are a few of those too. I mean, it's very interesting now, and I wonder how much conditions might play a part in these last two. The Oval, obviously, it's considered one of the more spin-friendly venues in England, and also then when you go to Old Trafford, it's the end of the England summer. So it may sort of turn a bit as well. So that's quite interesting coming into that period. And I mean, I would be amazed if we don't see Ravichandran Ashwin play in one, if not both of these tests. But certainly the Oval, he had a brilliant outing the last match he played there for Surrey and took, I think, 7 wickets. So it might make a really big difference in this series so far. It puts to bed, I think, it's a great example of why momentum in cricket is just such a furphy, and it's spoken about way too much. You start a test match again, you win or lose the toss, you make a good or bad decision, and it's kind of really game on when two teams are fairly evenly matched. We've seen before, like, a team that has a batter who's having a purple patch like Joe Root is, as purple can be, with a good bowling attack, can do really well. Now for India, their openers have been doing really well. I do wonder if Ishant Sharma will play this next game, because he looked pretty tired in that last one. But just quietly, because the Ducks haven't gone yet, I mean, how great is it going to be? This series is going to come down to the last match at Old Trafford. 5-test series. Okay, Muku, 5-test series coming down to the last test.
Quickly,
you
I
just
want,
can't
I want
ask
your
for more.
prediction now, though. What's the final score at the end of this series going to be?
No, see, I hate that because it's just random because I've got absolutely nothing to back it up. So whenever people ask me,
You've got your
I could
years
say,
of cricket expertise, Mel.
yeah,
You can give us a prediction.
but people who have played Test cricket at the highest level for years and years give predictions, and it's still meaningless. And they all the time, I mean, I could say it's going to end up being 7-2 to Bangladesh, and that's probably just as relevant as giving an actual one. I don't know. I just
look, I'll give mine 2-2.
Yeah.
England will win the 4th Test. India will win the 5th Test. That's mine.
Well, okay. I don't know. I think there could be a draw left. There could be a draw left in this.
Is that weather related or cricket related?
Maybe a bit of both. No, it's far more likely to be weather related than cricket related at the pace that these games sometimes go at, particularly that last game. I mean, I had whiplash just watching at home on my laptop. Dheeraj Ragtar says, India 2-1 up, Kohli jumping higher than Warner after reaching his century and double after that. Well, he did get a better score. He needs one. Yeah, he's still got a bit to do, I think, as Virat Kohli. He's going to be back, but I feel very confident of that. But it's a tricky little period for Virat Kohli at the moment. Let's see how much the ball moves around and if he keeps driving. Being tempted. And our final topic for the day is a very, very concerning one. How does cricket deal with Afghanistan? It's a big question, really, that I think cricket is going to be facing in the coming months. It's heartbreaking what is happening in Afghanistan, and you feel for everyone involved with cricket there. It may seem like, oh, look, cricket's just a small thing compared to everything that's happening in the country, but cricket, as with music, as with art, as with education, it's all part of society, isn't it? And it's the most popular sport in Afghanistan, and their story has been so probably the biggest feel-good story in world cricket in the past 10 years, particularly in men's cricket and more. So it's a really difficult one. We know if we look back at cricket and politics and that whole period during apartheid in South Africa, when countries, there were the boycotts of tours to South Africa, and then the controversy of the rebel tours that did take place. It is a different situation between these two countries, but it's a very difficult and precarious one, and it's a moral minefield, I think, for countries in the way that they deal with that. So they're really big questions. The ICC made quite a few concessions to Afghanistan when they gave them full membership back in 2017 because they didn't have a national women's team at the side. They did contract 25 players last year, but the status, while the Taliban has told SBS in this country, SBS Pashto, who did a brilliant job, that cricket would be acceptable as acceptable sport, it remains unclear what is going to happen with women's cricket. Again, that is just a massive moral and ethical dilemma that cricket's going to have to deal with.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there in terms of that. While the comments that were put out by the Taliban about the cricket team, obviously I want to share some of them here, that they said in the future we want good relations with all countries, and when good relations are established, Afghan players can go to Australia and they can come here. So that was from the SBS Pashto report, that there was a severe lack of reference in terms of the female players and the women's players. And while as you said, the women's team is still that base level 25 contracted players, there's still a lot of growth there. We just hope that can continue growing in this country, because it is an important element of their culture, as you said. But I guess looking at the men's side of things and looking at this test that is, well, not even looking at the one-off test against Australia. Before that, we've got the T20 World Cup, which is barely in a month or so now. So that's coming very close. And whether this team is going to be able to hopefully still compete. I mean, we saw some of the struggles for the Afghan athletes to get to the Paralympics. I mean, they eventually got there, the two athletes that were part of the Afghanistan Paralympic team that eventually got to Tokyo to compete in those games, but the struggles that they had to go through, whether it's going to be something similar for the cricket team coming forward in their sort of big 3-4 months coming up, will be very interesting to see. And I just hope, and I just hope that everything is peaceful over there as possible, and that, lots of thoughts are going to the people of Afghanistan at the moment, because it's a very interesting time and a very different time to what they've experienced over the last 5-10 years.
Yeah, so it's incredibly difficult. And just a comment from Sadman Hassan. Oh, hello, Sadman. Sadman has assured me too that he's a very happy man. He did reach out on Twitter, because I was hoping that Sadman wasn't actually a reflection, and it's a lovely name. I'm not saying that that's not a great name, because it is a great name. Just wanted to make sure it was a real name and not something that you were feeling sad. But Sadman, hello, Mel and McCurdy. Hope you guys are doing well. Yes, we are. I definitely believe the ICC and the well-established cricket boards should give as much hand as possible to keep Afghan cricket moving. Yeah, I think they will, and I think everyone at the moment is watching, because this, it's been a very fast-moving scenario. So at the moment, I think people are just watching, and I think as much help will be given as possibly can be to the cricketers themselves. Particularly, it's easier for the men at the moment, I think, as far as a lot of them are out of the country and playing in various places. How Rashid Khan has been pulling off some of the performances he has been while all this is going on in England, I can't even begin to comprehend. It's probably just the wider aspects, really. I don't think cricket's going to abandon Afghanistan by any means, and they shouldn't. It's just the best way forward, I think, really. Don't you think, Locke?
It makes sense. I think the world is going to come together to support certain parts of Afghanistan in the coming months and years, and I think cricket will be no different in that regards.
Yeah, and just a comment there from Diraj saying French women playing T20 cricket. That was some scoreline and interview after that. Now, if you haven't seen that, if you go to my Twitter handle, I did tweet out the interview. There's been some great coverage and really fantastic interviews that have been coming out of that's the tournament in Europe at the moment, those qualifiers, and the interview, the interview with the French players, absolutely just endearing and great to see. And I've always thought that cricket needs more French accents.
More French accents and more games in France, because I think that would be a fantastic trip for the cricketers. For the cricketers to go and play, not the journalists. Oh,
no, definitely not. But look, that is the show for this week. This is our farewell to you, Lockie McCurdy. But do follow him on Twitter because he's a great friend of ours, and also really worth following for all of his cricket insights, along with everything else. So he won't be lost to the world of journalism or cricket. But thanks for helping me get timed out off the ground, Lockie. It's been fun.
It's been heaps of fun, and I will be an avid watcher because, as I said at the start, I know there's big plans set to be announced for the coming months for this show. So everyone watching, make sure you keep tuned to Sporting News Australia, because just because I'm leaving, I know that'll drive a lot of you away, but there's lots of massive plans coming, and it's going to be a must-watch show over the summer.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Lockie. And thanks all of you who've joined in today. Don't forget to subscribe, give us a like, leave a comment, and do share, and come back again next week, because, yes, I will be unveiling a new guest, and I'm extremely excited about that. I'm really pumped. I think it's going to be fun, but we'll still miss you, Lockie. But until then, it's farewell to all of you, and a big mwah farewell to Lockie McCurdy.